Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Thanks for that intro. I'm here to present actually two presentations. First one is the International Drive Transit Feasibility and Alternative Technology Assessment. And if you allow me to refer to that as TAFADA, we'll get through this a little quicker. The second presentation is the Trade Show Boulevard Roadway Conceptual Analysis Study in the same area, performed by the same consultant. So to start off, we're going to talk about the background for the premium transit study, look at the alternatives analysis that was conducted, the recommendation, the public involvement that we conducted, and how we're going to move forward from here. So as part of the Idrive 2040 vision plan, premium transit was re-envisioned. We've had a number of previous studies that were conducted on this subject. The premium transit best aligns with goal number one of that vision, walkability, cycling, and transit, and the transformative tool to move that forward is mobility. There's a very strong linkage out in the Idrive district between land use and transportation, and you can see by the map the link serves a number of stops along the Idrive, Universal Boulevard, and other road corridors, providing service to those land uses. There's 15 to 30-minute headways and a fairly decent ridership. Also in the district is the Iride Trolley service. It's had over 2 decades worth of service, and many of those years they were at or near capacity. It's a service runs 20, 30-minute headways, a good portion of the day and evening. Wanted also to make sure that as we went through the study, we coordinated with the Convention Center Master Plan and made sure that their future projected circulators interfaced well with the system that we envisioned. Also, another important project in the district is the Idrive Interim transit lanes. These are lanes that are going to be constructed later this year, and they're going to facilitate the Iride Trolley, links, charter buses, right-turning vehicles, and premium transit service if we move forward with that. This project also appears on Metro Plan's prioritized project list. You've also been briefed on the CRA project list recently. This project is on that. It's categorized as premium transit, and it provides higher comfort, capacity, speed, frequency, higher than typical bus operations. Transportation planning has brought many road widening studies to this board, and they focused on roadway design criteria that was primarily focused on creating that additional space in the right-of-way for the capacity, where we looked at alternatives analysis and access management, created a typical section and attached costs to it. Conversely, when we're talking about transit studies, that evaluation of alternative analysis focuses on operation plans for transit vehicles and creates a program for the projected ridership and attached costs for O&M and capital. And in this case, federal and state funding come into play because there's programs available to help with these types of projects. In terms of the analysis that we conducted, these are the roadways that we evaluated for premium transit service. In any case, the recommendations would support multimodal connectivity, make sure that we're serving all of the travel markets in that district, as well as create a sustainable and competitive system to make sure that we're competing with the rest of the globe in a cost-effective manner. As we dove into the various modes of technology for vehicles, you can see here we looked at a wide variety. Some of those advanced for particular criteria reasons, and others did not. For those that did advance, there was a high focus on passenger capacity, flexibility, and whether they were proven modes of transportation that we've established around the country. As you can see, premium bus, streetcar, and automated and connected vehicle shuttles were the three that came forward. And as we put them through the evaluation criteria, the premium bus came forward with lower capital costs, high capacity, higher flexibility, and of course, a proven track record. We also looked at a number of alternative alignments for the system. Basically, we're looking from SeaWorld to the south all the way up to Sand Lake Road as a starter corridor for premium transit. The alternatives were up on the very north end between Universal Boulevard and International Drive itself. This system needed to be evaluated whether it's going to be curbside running or median running. And based on a number of key factors, we evaluated that as well. In terms of the recommendations, the premium transit, premium bus came in first. The alignment to stay on International Drive was heavily driven by the availability of parking at the north end. The route goes from SeaWorld on Sea Harbor all the way up to Sand Lake Road, and that's going to be a curbside running system. Much of the technology for premium bus, very similar to streetcars with all the amenities that are available, and it offered lower capital costs and greater flexibility. We also had to look at the type of stations that we were going to provide for this system, and seeing that a premium bus with an articulated feature, we needed a pretty good size station that offered level boarding so that no matter if you're traveling with a stroller, a wheelchair, a bicycle, you could easily get on and off that system. We also made sure that the stops were spaced appropriately to facilitate a 10-minute headway. Spaced approximately a quarter mile apart, you're no more than 700 feet from the next stop. And with a 10-minute headway, if you just missed that bus, there'll be another one right behind it. And we built an operating plan based on those ideas, 10-minute headway, an expanded service all the way to 1 in the morning, 7 days a week. We built a fleet of vehicles to service that target headway, as well as a few vehicles for maintenance. For capital and operating costs, we estimated that the starter capital cost would be $83 million. $23 million of that cost are for the transit lanes that are going to be starting construction later this year. When you look at operations and maintenance estimates, this system is estimated at $4.8 million annually. When you take the estimated ridership and the fare that we anticipate, you're down to $3.4 billion per year. Transit hubs are important as well. It offers relief for the drivers of the system. It also provides regional connectivity to future systems that may come to the corridor. And you can see we looked at a number of locations. Orange County already owns and maintains the #1 location. It's also the site for the Link Superstop. So in terms of funding, as I had mentioned before, state and federal funding is available under a number of programs. It's a competitive program that we would be looking at to help finance this project. We're looking at a very conservative approach where we would be seeking a 50% split between local funds, which are likely to be CRA funds, and 50% federal and state funding. Public involvement was very important, that we created an advisory group. Many of the members of that group are owners of attractions and facilities along that corridor and in the district. We held 4 meetings throughout the life of the project at particular times. We also had coordination meetings with state and local agencies. We held small group meetings with many of the advisory group members to get a focus on their interests. And we held 2 community meetings out in the public. In terms of the next steps, we'll be scheduling a hearing with you next, probably May, June timeframe. We'll be wanting to recommend an implementation strategy to continue our coordination with links and potentially form a memorandum of understanding for the eventual operation of this system. We want to stay in contact and coordination with the Idrive district, for the Iride Trolley. Any kind of changes that happen with the transit lane project we'll keep up with. We will be looking to make that federal application and state application for funding and identify those local funds, as well as the needed changes at MetroPlan's TIP and the FDOT's 5-year program. And in summary, the premium transit system that we've developed serves that Idrive district travel market. It studies advanced vehicle technologies, alignments, and configurations. It recommended the premium bus technology and curbside running, and extensive public involvement was conducted. Following the hearing, we'll be coordinating further with links and the funding applications. If it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Trade Show Boulevard, RCA. You can see right behind the east side of the convention center on this map, Trade Show Boulevard exists. And that's a connection between Destination Parkway and Universal Boulevard. When we studied this project, we want to be sure that we're looking at regional roadway influences as well as collecting specific corridor data needed to make that analysis of widening. We looked at those alternatives. We documented right-of-way needs. And during the same public involvement opportunities that we had with the transit project, we used that time for this project as well. The distinct linkage between Destination Parkway and Universal Boulevard is very strong, and we wanted to increase the capacity both for automobiles, freight, and transit demands. Today, Trade Show Boulevard is a 2-lane, low-speed, 35-mile-an-hour roadway with limited pedestrian and bicycle facilities. There is a transit route that runs along that roadway. We also looked at the crash history and all the infrastructure needed in order to consider widening that facility. When we looked at the traffic generation to the future, the roadway is not going to be suitable. It will need a 4-lane capacity. We did look at a 6-lane, but that we just never reached the projections for that. Maybe hard to see this chart, but this is an evaluation matrix between a 4-lane roadway with transit in the middle, a 4-lane roadway with transit on the outside, and a 6-lane roadway with transit on the outside. Alternative 1 best suits the character and conditions of this corridor with lower wetland impacts, better access for bike and peds, and fewer conflicts for transit. This is the layout of that road expansion. North is, or to the right, as you can see, the typical section below showing the vehicle travel lanes, the transit in the middle, wide sidewalks for peds and bikes on the outside, as well as a freight staging area, which was important to the convention center. The bookend intersections are shown here. To the left is Destination Parkway, where this road will interface with the Link Superstop area. Down in the right-hand corner of that picture, I believe the board was talking about the affordable housing. That would be that location. So you can see it's very proximal to the Link Superstop. And on the other end, on the north end, is how we connect into Universal Boulevard and the Kirkland Road extension, featuring the transit lanes that line up right with that in the center. As I mentioned, the public involvement included a variety of ways that we reached out to the public. And in summary, the Trade Show Boulevard RCA establishes the purpose and need to expand that roadway for the future.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I was going to say, you know, that it's that also that type of sustainable technology really is an economic driver. Companies that want to move here want to see that type of environment to bring their families, their young families to, and their growing industries to. So, you know, if we're looking at the foundational economic drivers, you know, it falls in line with that also. I really quickly also, if we could go back to the map that has the lanes on intersection, I think it was like the third to last slide.
Yeah, close to the end. That one. Down one.
Okay, yeah, that one. If we could make that a little bigger. Are those, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lanes across?
That's right. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 lanes. So this also is facilitating transit in the center, which, you know, creates that footprint as well. Plus, we need traffic separators between those lanes to make them safe and organized. And it's based off of traffic projections, the different lane calls, and the number of turn lanes needed. This is by no means a blown-out intersection. It's there's just a couple of turn lanes in each direction, sometimes one.
I know.
Plus, on the other end, you can see where we're developing that freight access and freight staging area.
Right. And I do understand that this is a complex area because of the freight in conjunction with additional passengers and vehicles. But, you know, speaking with some of the disability rights folks, I don't know how to safely get across that intersection in a wheelchair in the time that we have during a regular intersection cycle. I don't even know if I could do it with my regular legs and work shoes. So it's a concern for me looking at that. That just looks, you know, in an area that we know that we're really trying to sort of encourage pedestrian activity, maybe not at this intersection, but in general, the Idrive area, it has been a goal for a very long time. And, you know, even after 20 years of investment, the pedestrian accessibility and availability is still very limited. So I looked at that and it gave me a little anxiety to think about someone trying to get across there with a stroller or a wheelchair. Thank you again, though, for the presentation.
And on a couple of those legs, you can see where we have sort of an island area in the traffic separator or median. Those are opportunities for someone that doesn't quite make it all the way through the intersection to have a place to pause. That could be
But that means they're going to wait through semi-trucks flying by them. You've got a toddler in one arm. I mean, I don't know if that makes me feel any less secure about that pedestrian.
Well, I will say that it's the traffic engineering's policy to cross the pedestrians all in one phase, so it's not a two-phase crossing. Those locations are there just in case, but the timing of those signals do accommodate all pedestrians and bikes for that single-phase crossing.
Commissioner, this is Renzo. If I could just add to that. So the cross-section on Trade Show matches up with the cross-section on Kirkland Road.
Oh, I've seen the Kirkland Road disasters. I mean, people hit every weekend on Kirkland, so I don't know. Well, I don't know if that's the model we want to use.
This is Kirkland Road extension, and the real point that I want to make is that both on Kirkland and Trade Show, these are transit type of facilities. So ideally, you would have folks riding the bus down Kirkland Road onto Trade Show. There are no stops on Trade Show, and the only stop north off of Kirkland is by the future universal development. So my point here is that we're encouraging people to ride the bus and avoid, crossing large intersections like this. Certainly, as we move forward, if we find that there are issues with pedestrians, we will certainly address those at that time.
Yeah, but
again,
I mean, what you're just admitting is you're going to wait for an issue with a pedestrian to arise. You literally are admitting to waiting for an issue with a pedestrian, which means a toddler death. I mean, that's crazy. I understand that if this is necessary, maybe take the crosswalk out and just call it what it is. There's a crosswalk there, which indicates that we've established it as a pedestrian crossing. But if that's not an actual possibility for someone safely, I'm not comfortable with the idea that we'll wait and see if there's a pedestrian incident.
Again, not to belabor the issue, but again, the emphasis here is on transit. We are required to
pedestrians are transit. Pedestrians are transit.
I beg your pardon?
Pedestrians are transit. Pedestrians
Understood.
are transit.
Absolutely.
Well, Commissioner, I understand what you're saying here. I don't know that we can resolve it today. This is just an information item, but it is something that we're going to have to certainly be aware of in that entire International Drive corridor. Pedestrian safety has been a bit of a challenge, and it remains. We have a number of initiatives with the Best Foot Forward initiative and some other things, and we haven't been really improving the pedestrian safety in the area. So we have to anticipate the need. We have to anticipate what we're going to do if that's going to be a pedestrian bridge or any of that at certain locations in order for them to safely cross. This is something that our traffic engineers are going to have to wrestle with going forward. And I know that the board will want to see certain options there that will keep everybody safe. So the point well made. Any other comments, commissioners, staff, Renzo, Ryan, any other comments on this item?
Just want to,
Yes.
Mayor, really reemphasize your point that obviously, pedestrian issues are of paramount importance to us and the safety for pedestrians. So again, and not to get too much into the weeds at this point of the study, but we have provided some fixes to those issues, like prohibiting any right turns at all four corners to allow pedestrians to cross the road. So those are some of the immediate things we're doing. This project is several years out, and by then we will continue to explore design factors that will continue to emphasize pedestrian safety and accommodate pedestrians on our roadways.
Okay. Thank you all for the update today. Again, this was an information item. It's not an action item. If there's no other questions or comments by members of the board, this really concludes the work that we have before us today. We hope that you all have a great week, the rest of the week that's left, and we will see you all soon, and we stand adjourned.